Good evening and welcome to yet another episode of Service to Humanity, a program designed to bring you updates on the activities of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. My name is Hafsat Mustafa Hadija, your anchor on the program. In order to increase efficiency and maximize resources, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development is evolving a cash and voucher policy, which gives recipients of humanitarian assistance an opportunity to decide what works for them in terms of aid. And to prepare for this line of action, the ministry held a 3-day workshop bringing together various stakeholders, international NGOs and other partners to deliberate and understand the new policy. Details of that workshop are contained in this episode of our program. In another story, we talk about the plight of persons with special needs as we chatted with the Director of Special Needs on some of the interventions the ministry has initiated for their well-being. Stay tuned for the details alongside reports of other events from the ministry when the program kicks off fully after this short break. Don't go away.
The NPower program is key to helping young Nigerians acquire and develop.
The federal government of Nigeria remains committed to including and protecting persons with disabilities to guarantee that no one is left behind.
I see that we are going through challenging times, and I see this woman running all about the country trying to help our people, because this lady is doing a very good job for our country.
Thank you.
Thank you for all what you have been doing for us.
We will start with news around the ministry. In our lineup, Humanitarian Affairs Ministry flags off training of knowledge beneficiaries. These and other stories in our new segment called The Management Diary. Do stay tuned.
The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development last week announced the commencement of the Knowledge program of the NPower in the 6 geopolitical zones, including the federal capital, Abuja. The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Sadia Umar Farouk, who made the announcement through the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Bashir Noura Al-Ghali, said, "The Knowledge component of the NPower program is focused on equipping young Nigerians with relevant skills and certification to become competent workers, innovators and entrepreneurs prepared for both domestic and global markets." A total of 20,000 beneficiaries will participate in the program, which consists of centralized in-camp training for 3 months with a 6-month apprenticeship across the 6 geopolitical zones. Participants on camp for the 3 months in camp training for the Knowledge scheme have expressed their gratitude for the program.
My brother told me about it and then he helped me register though, yes. And I was not too sure, like my hopes were in there. I thought maybe it's just something that's, and then voila, oh thanks to God I'm here.
And one thing that I can be able to say again, we can able to appreciate for our home president, General Muhammad Buhari. May Almighty Allah protect him and guide him in good ways.
The federal government, through the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, has continued its efforts to better the lives of Nigerians. It recently held training for mobile money agents for the South-South Zone in Calabar, Cross River State. Participants were selected from the 6 states that make up the South-South Zone, namely Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Cross River, Delta, Edo and River State. About 300 beneficiaries are expected to be trained from the zone as mobile money agents. The mobile money training is targeted towards poverty alleviation, youth empowerment and wealth creation, in line with President Muhammadu Buhari's commitment to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Under the mobile money scheme, at least 1,850 Nigerian youths across the country would be trained as mobile money agents.
Across the 6 geopolitical zones.
They should use this money for what it is meant for, obviously to take care of their family.
In 36 states and the FCT. over 6.4 million of Nigerians poorest of the poor in about 1.3 million households receive conditional cash transfers of 5,000 naira monthly under the Household Upliftment Program of the federal government. Their joy knows no bound.
The government very well because they did well for us.
It helped me to do any other thing, my family.
Reducing absolute poverty, promoting shared prosperity through the Conditional Cash Transfer Initiative. The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development in service to humanity.
You're watching Service to Humanity, bringing you updates from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. A 3-day training for the development of cash and voucher assistance was organized in Abuja by the ministry. The training is to help the ministry service Nigerians better during humanitarian assistance through cash and vouchers. Our next report brings you details from this workshop. Keep watching.
The Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development organized a 3-day training on the development of cash and voucher assistance policy in Abuja. The workshop brought stakeholders from key actors and donors, including UNICEF, UNOCA, WFP, UNCHR, INGO, and relevant MDAs.
The cash and voucher assistance workshop is critical because when you look at cash and voucher assistance, it's used in social protection as a key instrument. It's also used in humanitarian response. And so it's important for the two actors, different actors within the space, to come together to have a common understanding of concepts, what it means for humanitarians and what it means for social protection, particularly as the country is advancing its social protection system.
The workshop is aimed at sharpening the shared understanding of relevant stakeholders on the use of cash and voucher assistance and to strategically position them to identify, design and develop an inclusive national policy that will strengthen the institutional capacity and operational environment of cash and voucher assistance in Nigeria.
Training is very much focused on providing the staff of the Nigerian government from different ministries, including from the Federal Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs, Social Development and Disaster Management, and also their counterparts from the other ministries who would be supporting in helping them better understand cash and vouchers assistance so that it can be used to develop a national policy around it. And I think that this workshop is very much building the basics, understanding on what it is, how it's used, when it is used, where it is used, and kind of going through the process of how these programs are designed.
This is really the first step to creating the national cash policy. So this is really an opportunity for all of the key stakeholders to come together, to have a common understanding around what is cash transfers, to discuss the common opportunities that exist, also some of the challenges we can overcome, and then to really share our lessons and experiences together.
It is my pleasure on behalf of the Honourable Minister Saidiya Umar Farouk.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Saidiya Umar Farouk, was represented by Alhaji Ali Grema, Director, Humanitarian of the Ministry, said the training is aimed at building capacity of participants as it concerns the use of cash and voucher assistance, as it will help in expanding modalities for the delivery of humanitarian assistance in Nigeria.
It is a known fact that today, cash and voucher assistance is rapidly expanding modalities for the delivery of humanitarian assistance in Nigeria. In 2019 alone, 39 partners implemented cash and voucher assistance across 38 out of the 61 local government areas in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. And this has continued to multiply in various parts of Nigeria. However, despite the achievement recorded by the cash and voucher assistance, there are several operational challenges faced by the operators. Accordingly, several actions has been taken towards actualization of this agenda, which included, but not limited to, the ministries assuming the chair of the National Cash Working Group, who had been tasked with the responsibility of facilitating the policy elaboration, among other issues. In the next few days, the stakeholders gathered here, who were carefully selected in line with their mandates, relevance in the operation of cash voucher assistance in Nigeria, will be sharing ideas on information geared towards having a common understanding of the operating technologies and practices associated with cash and voucher assistance. This will strategically prepare us to carry out the assignment of elaborating the national cash and voucher assistance in Nigeria.
Also speaking at the event, one of the development partners on this program, United Nations Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, Trond Jensen, said the use of cash vouchers will help the people prioritize how they use scarce resources when attending to their needs. He further said this workshop is a major step in achieving the agenda of policy framework, as it is an effective and efficient way of providing humanitarian assistance.
The ongoing humanitarian response plan, which we are in the process of articulating for next year, is the primary framework then for the UN and non-governmental organizations in terms of giving the operation direction. And in that document, of course, we give cash a very prominent position. As I said, in terms of being an efficient and effective way of providing assistance where that is possible. And of course, that's very much then contingent on functioning markets, etc. So the national cash and voucher assistance policy is then expected to complement and enable the humanitarian response plan, providing clarity on the use of cash and vouchers to meet needs among poor and vulnerable people, and also improving the operational environment.
Several papers were presented in the course of the workshop. One of them was titled, "What, When and Why Cash and Voucher Response?" It was presented by Yuktar Kumar of UNHCR. There was another paper presentation by Natasha Forasina, Regional Program Officer CBT, on administrative and access constraints to CVA uptake. Subsequent sessions ran concurrently with interaction, including question and answer sessions.
And so that caught my eye and it actually made sense. You come to a community, you give some people cash, you give them vouchers. There's every tendency for there to be some kind of price hike. Yeah. It may not be very noticeable, but it's there.
Speaking after the event, Mr. Charles Ocholo, Deputy Director, Humanitarian, speak on the switch to cash and voucher assistance and how the policy would help.
The cash and voucher instead of the normal relief. And how I'm going to respond to it is that the issues of humanitarian response is evolving, because anything that deals with human beings is dynamic. So it changes from time to time. And this also relates to the circumstances of the environment and the circumstances of time. So, and like you know, let me just give a brief history on how we got where we are today. The ministry, the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, you know, is a new creation of this admission of Muhammadu Buhari, our dear president. And the core mandate of the ministry is to ensure a coordinated approach in delivering humanitarian response in Nigeria. And one of the key gaps that was identified at the resumption of the Honorable Minister, the first and the only minister, is that Sadia Umar Farouk, is that there are a lot of challenges in using cash and voucher. There are a lot of bottleneck, and there are a lot of bureaucracy, and a lot of misunderstanding. And because this gap exists, the Honorable Minister, while presenting her mission and vision within the framework of 7-point agenda, included the issues of developing a national policy for cash and voucher.
Various keynote speakers also said they were excited on the training, describing the workshop as timely for people in the social protection and humanitarian services.
This workshop is coming at the right time, very important. I'm happy actually personally as an individual and as UNICEF that this is happening, because this has brought all the stakeholders together that are into interventions in the Northeast. Of course, as you know, Nigeria in the Northeast have been faced with a lot of insurgency, and there are a lot of interventions that have been happening which hitherto could have been uncoordinated, bringing all the partners together. But with this workshop, it has given us a platform to bring all stakeholders from the Office of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, CBN, Ministry of Finance, and all the participants, the cash transfer unit, and every stakeholder to be able to share ideas, rub minds, share notes, and see what has been happening in the Northeast.
It's been very exciting to see government and humanitarian development partners come together to really work on developing a new national cash strategy. Oftentimes we don't see this type of engagement between government and development and humanitarian actors, and from WFP we're really excited to be here to support the federal government.
You're watching Service to Humanity, a program of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, capturing its various activities in coordinating a humanitarian response in Nigeria. In less than a month from today, the world will be marking the International Day for Persons with Disabilities, where we play our own little part in dreaming up awareness for the plight of the PWDs. The ministry, being in charge of the welfare and well-being of these groups of persons, has done quite a lot for them. In our next segment, we highlight some of these successes as we take excerpts from interview with the Director of Special Needs of the Ministry. Please don't go away.
Persons with special needs fall into various clusters, including persons with visual impairment, hearing impaired, speech impaired, physical handicap challenge, intellectually impaired, and those with spinal cord injuries. For these persons, their effective care, development, and eventual integration into the mainstream of the Nigerian society so that they can contribute their quota to the economic, social, and political development of the country is the responsibility of government. And for this to be effectively carried out, their welfare is domiciled in the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Because of the special attention this set of persons need, the Minister, upon assumption of office, made the passage of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act priority. It was eventually passed and signed into law in January 2019. The Act established the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, which is now under the supervision of the Ministry. In an interview with Mrs. Nkechi Onukwe, Director of Special Needs, she speaks on the supervisory role the Ministry exercises over the Commission.
The Ministry is the supervisory agency for the Commission, National Commission for Disability. And as our role, we do over side function for them. First and foremost, we provide, there's policy guidance, policy direction being provided by the ministry. So there's also financial support. So all the budget of the commission, before it gets through, it goes through this ministry for it to get to the National Assembly. So the ministry also help them to attract funds apart from the budgetary allocations. And I told you we do prototype programs and projects for them to key into it and then get started. We also build capacity for them. So there are so many things that it's a just new commission. So I'm just telling you what we are doing and will continue to do. If there are issues with them that cannot be resolved, like people have, they do interventions for persons with disability, and there's an obstacle anywhere, they bring it to the ministry to help them.
Still on efforts to better the lives of persons living with disabilities, the ministry has taken the step to support the local production of assistive devices by PWDs for PWDs. How did this move start, and where is the ministry on this?
Ministry is, always annually procure what we call assistive devices. They could be wheelchair, they could be crutches, they could be tricycles, all the things that can mobilize persons with disability, to move around. So most often we buy them, and they are usually bought from abroad. And at times we get donors who give us, and those donors also come from abroad. And we now share them to the states to continue the sharing, to institutions, even individuals who request for them. But procuring of these assistive devices are very expensive. And we discovered that some few individuals in Nigeria that have started copying, producing the ones, it's a copy because they are copying what we usually bring from abroad. And so we decided to now move around the states to locate where these assistive devices are produced locally. The outcomes were really good. They said they needed capacity to be built so that they can learn new technology. They also want, to be taught how to market their goods. They also wanted to know how they can relate with their customers. They also said they wanted money, how they could be linked up with any of the banks to help them, access.
A policy document guiding the production of assistive devices has also been drawn up adoption by the Federal Executive Council.
As a follow-up, apart from the enhancement and grants we are doing, we are also producing the roadmap, because it's good to talk about it, but we need a policy document which will guide anybody producing, procuring, or acquiring any assistive device. That should be a standard. Because during the forum, the Bank of Industry was there, the manufacturing, Standard Organization of Nigeria was also there. So we are now producing a roadmap. This roadmap will now specify clearly the type of assistive device we need, we want, we procure, we buy in Nigeria.
Aside all of these efforts, the director further explained that the ministry has taken steps to ensure inclusion of persons living with disabilities in various programs of the government.
The ministry is also recommending, though now we shift that assignment to the commission, we recommend qualified persons with disability to the Federal Civil Service Commission so that they could be employed. Those who write us, we write a recommendation to the Federal Civil Service Commission to employ them. For NCIP, they've been included because the ministry ensured, initially they were not there, but the ministry had made sure that a great percentage of persons with disability are benefiting from NCIP program. All the NCIP programs, they are benefiting. For example, Empower, they were given 10% slot. So that 10% is meant for persons with disability. They were not contesting the 10% with anybody. So it's basically for them. In general, all the NCIP program considers, he has a quota, has a percentage for persons with disability. So all we do, based on what the Act has specified, say 5% for them. So we make sure in all we do, apart from NCIP, even in ordinary attendance of a meeting, participation in a meeting, all those conditions or specifications are met to ensure inclusiveness for persons with disability in Nigeria.
And as Nigeria plans to mark the International Day for Persons with Disabilities come December 3rd, 2021, persons with special needs will indeed be counting their blessings for the various programs and policies of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
That's how much we can take on this episode of Service to Humanity. Join me again same time next week on this same medium for more on the activities of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Until then, do have a great week ahead.